Welcome to Shorty SuperCoach and welcome to another player profile. And I've spoken on a number of occasions about how our forward line at the moment seems to have a lack of options in the premium status and is proving perhaps a little bit difficult to have enough faith in a few players. But recently this man is coming to my side and I'm feeling better and better about him as each day goes on. Jack Billings, I'm really liking the look of. He has been long touted. Obviously, it was a high draft pick, and ever since he tore the Dogs apart in that final quarter where he kicked the 3 goals and ended up with about 140 SuperCoach points, he's been one of those guys that put him on the map. He's been one of those players that we've thought, well, eventually he's going to be an absolute elite player. And he showed a fair bit of it last season without the numbers truly reflecting it. But we'll take a look at those in a minute. But what are we paying for him? $509,000. I reckon that's not absolutely breaking the bank, and I think he's got a fair bit of upside. But just looking at the forwards now, you go down. You got Menegola, Franklin, Heaney will be in a lot of teams clearly. Green, Kennedy, Wingard, Robbie Gray, Dalhouse. They're Walters. They're the sort of guys who really stand out around the 480 plus mark. And obviously, a few guys like Petrarca and DeGoey tempting people, but none of those really just shout absolute lock. I mean, you could make reasonable cases for all of them, but I think when you really take a look at it, there's no one that you just click on and go, yeah, I'm pretty comfortable with that. You can lock them and load them, where I do think Billings is a guy that we must strongly consider. Dalhouse is, of course, another one that I didn't mention there, but let's take a look at his numbers. Now, last year, averaged the 92.7, I believe it was, and did have some reasonable averages prior. It wasn't like he was just coming out of nowhere. So 92.7 last year, 2015, 84.3, just the 9 games there. But that was when he really stood out and said, yeah, look, I'm a player. And he's 22 years old, 64 games. He's really in that stage of his career where you feel a breakout player is really going to do it somewhere between, can be 21, but sort of that 22 to 24 age bracket for guys that we know have got talent, have shown it in glimpses and for patches. You just get the sense that a genuine breakout year isn't far off. And I think for Billings, it could definitely be in 2018. Now, that 92.7, that's a reasonable average, but if you break it down, the first 6 rounds, he averaged fairly poorly, really. I mean, it was only 73.3 points per game. Didn't hit a ton, had a couple of 50s, a 93, 97, and scores in the 60s and 70s. Pretty mediocre start. But then he really got going in round 7 and beyond and really found more of the ball and was far more damaging. And that's where it really gets interesting. We can all pick out numbers from certain periods of the season and mount a bit of a case for if they find this form for a full season. But the last 16 games of 2017, Billings averaged 99.9. I mean, that's extremely impressive. I think we can forgive him for a poor start and really see that back end of the season and go, well, gee whiz. And last 5 rounds, 103, 130, 112, 96, 104. Extremely good. Sometimes we pick out numbers, and I certainly do it. You might pick out 8 to 9 games within a season. You go, well, look, there's what they can do. Reasonable sample. Imagine if they can replicate that across the season. Sometimes you could be criticised for clutching at straws because, sometimes taking that small sample and trying to spread it over 22 games isn't always possible. But Billings has done it across 16 games at a premium number. So I think we definitely know he can do it. He's only going to get better. And I really like him, the style of player he is. We've just sort of spoken numbers for the first 4 minutes, really. But the player he is, he's a beautiful link man. More of your outside type, certainly more of an outside player. There's no doubt about that. But he is damaging. He's a very nice kick, good around goal. If there's one thing he'll be really looking to improve is his conversion. I think he kicked about 23 goals, 26. But, a nice even spread from kick to handball. He's 1-to-1, 11.6 average for both. can find, leading up the ground, takes his fair share of marks and things like that. But I just do think he's a great guy for the likes of Steele and Stephen to sort of win the ball and get it out to. Obviously they've got Armitage there, Ross as well. I think Billings is more of your, well, as we know, we can select him as a forward. He's more of your half-forward flanker who pushes up. He's not going to win too many centre clearances. I haven't checked his average, but I wouldn't imagine. Let me see. Yeah, centre clearances, he averaged 0.1 last year and 1.3 stoppages. So clearly he's not going to start in the centre bounce much. It's going to be on the half-forward flank. He's going to push up. He's going to be damaging. He's going to spread. He's going to work hard. And he'll work his way up to that clearance. And that's where you get those stoppage numbers. And more so, he gets the ball dished out to him. He can use his creativity, his pace. He's quite smart. And he is a great ball user. And I think that's something the Saints lack. And as I've touched on, he's got that bit of X factor, that bit of the big game style about him, that you feel that when those bigger moments come along, he's quite comfortable being handed the responsibility. And that's something I quite like in a play. You can't necessarily see that on a stat sheet, but it is nice watching a game. It gets close, the game's on the line, and it's no coincidence the same sort of players start to step up and put themselves in the contest and find the way to the right spots. And I think Billings is that sort of guy. He doesn't shy away from the moment, and I do feel that, clearly we know that helps for SuperCoach, the impact and the influence over a game. So I've really talked him up, haven't I? I really pumped him up. What's his downside? Look, I don't know if there's too much of a downside. He has struggled with his body at times. Getting consistent games has been somewhat of a struggle. 16, 9, 17, played the 22 last year. So I think, I think we can put that aside after last year, really consistent from a getting out on the ground point of view. I can't see his numbers going down, and I'd be shocked if they stagnated. If worst case scenario, he marginally goes up to 93 or 94 average, it's not a disaster. So I think the potential is for him to definitely crack 3 figures. If you want to pluck downsides potentially, maybe St Kilda may struggle. I'm not too sure. They are in a bracket of teams that could really come on in leaps and bounds, or they could finish bottom 6. It's a very tight competition. Will he be somewhat starved of supply? Will he struggle if some inside midfielders are struggling, or St Kilda are getting belted around the stoppage because he doesn't win as much of his own ball as, say, a Heaney or something like that? Is he going to suffer? Well, look, I'm really just trying to play devil's advocate. And the fact is, he's in my team at the moment. I think he's a great selection. So there are a couple of things that you may just want to think about, but really, I don't think they're major issues, and I definitely think his upside and potential far outweighs that. So I'm on board. I'm really excited. Clearly want to see a fairly decent pre-season from him. As with a lot of guys, when they haven't produced premium numbers before, you probably want to just get that little bit of assurance to the pre-season. They're tracking well enough and body's going well and they're looking in reasonable nick. But at this point in time, feeling very confident, very pleased with what I'm seeing, and I think at one point I was probably Dalhouse versus Billings. I think Dalhouse is a wait and see depending on where he lines up. Needs to get back to a more permanent midfield role, aside from those numbers it suffered with the forward line role. But even so, I don't think it would be Billings out for Dalhouse. I think I'd be looking to get both of those guys in somehow if Dalhouse were to get the midfield numbers. But that's a chat for another day. So I'll leave you to it. Let me know what your thoughts are on Jack Billings, a very talented player. Definitely could break out. So give me your thoughts. Let me know if he's in your team. Let me know if you got any opinions on anything I'm doing, any players you want me to profile. I will intend to get to a few comments. Of course, there are a lot of comments. I do feel over the pre-season I may struggle to get to absolutely everyone, but I do read everyone. So they certainly don't just get put there and not looked at. I certainly read them all, and at some point I will look to get to the majority. But I do appreciate the comments, appreciate the views, and plenty of subscribers coming in as well, plenty of new ones. So that's great to see, and thanks for getting on board. So thanks for tuning in. I'll chat to you soon. Cheers.